Alright, this is Blender Challenge 13. Create an isometric room, and this is part 3. And the Blender Challenge, in case you don't know, is just something that I set up for people to have some fun in case they're not sure what they feel like modeling. I say, okay, I challenge you to model this or that. And so the challenge is to create something isometric, sort of a cutaway view of a room or a building or something along that line. And I've chosen to do this image here. I got the artist's permission to use this, which is great. And we're going to do some relatively simple modeling here. All right, so if you are a relative beginner, hopefully you can follow along with what I'm doing and just learn a few techniques and then go from there. All right, so here we are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the table by clicking on it and Shift H, and I'm just going to focus just on that. I'm going to press the period key to focus on that table. And I want to create some cuts in this object to create these black areas here that look like sort of indents there. And we'll do the same kind of thing for there. All right, so I'm going to assume these are sort of rounded rectangles, so we're going to create those in geometry instead of doing them as a texture. This is just going to be a static image. It's not going to be used in a game or anything. And so we're going to do that. And we're going to do something called booleans. So in order to get the tool that I'm going to use, or the object that's going to cut into this table in the right position, I'm just going to select a face. It's a lot easier to do that than to bring in a new object. I'm going to select that, Shift D to duplicate it, drag it out, and press P, separate by selection. Go back in object mode. So I now have both of these pieces. I'm going to go into edit mode and A to select. I'm going to scale this in the green arrow in the Y, SY, and make it narrower like this. All right, bring it back a little bit. Press 3 to look from that view. Press G to grab. And I'm going to position this the way I want it. I'm going to SY a little bit more. And that's roughly the size I'm going to use. Now, because I'm going to use this to cut into the table, I need to give this some actual thickness. It's just a flat plane. So I'm going to extrude this in the red arrow direction. That's the X, E, and I'll just grab this and I'll pull it out. Now you can see it's behaving a little funny, and that's because if I go in object mode and the wrench, you can see it's still got the modifiers that it inherited from this because I created it from this. I don't need those, so I'm going to X, and I also have down here auto smooth. I don't need any of that. Now it looks funny, so right click, choose shade flat. So that's the piece that I want to start with, but I want to make rounded rectangles. So I'll go back into object mode, press 2 for edge selection, or I can do it up there, and hold down Shift as I click on these corners right here. With those selected, we're going to bevel them. Control B, pull. You see the way it's starting to cut away. I'm going to roll my mouse up 1, 2, 3. Like that. And you can still position your mouse so you can get the curvature you want. Click Alt-A to deselect, back in object mode. So I've got that. Now my transform tool is still over there, and this is selected. So let's go Object, Set Origin to Geometry, and pull this in a little ways, maybe about halfway. And we'll use that to make an indentation. But first of all, I want more than one of these. I want 5, and I might even want them a little bit narrower. So I'm going to go back into Object, into Edit Mode, scale in the Y. I'm just going to pull it in a bit. Okay, let's use the Array modifier. Choose Array. I want it in the Y direction, so I'm going to move the Y. And hold down Shift if you want to move a little bit slower. And then I'm going to put 0 for the X. And bring this up to 5, I believe it is. Hold on. I better zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we'll do 4. Okay, now positioning. Looks like it comes to almost halfway on the table, and I'm just going to leave it like that. That's going to look just fine. Okay, now booleans can give some unexpected results, but we're going to give this a shot already. First thing to note is look at how rounded my table is due to the bevel. Okay, It's got quite a bevel on it. When I do a boolean, I'll probably lose some of that, but that's going to be okay with me. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to select the table. We want to cut into it and have some little indentations. So with the table selected, I'm going to choose Add Modifier, Boolean. I'm going to drag it to the top of the stack and leave it on Difference. I want to point out something just before we actually attempt the Boolean, because if I choose the eyedropper and select these and then go to Apply and then take these and hide them, see, nothing has happened. What's gone wrong? Well, let's go back a little ways. All right. I'm going to come over here to this icon here and choose face orientation, and you'll see some blue and you'll see some red. Because of the way that I extruded these, I went one way rather than the other. They're red. That means the polys are facing the wrong way. So I'm going to go into edit mode and select, and then I'm going to go Alt N, recalculate outside, and now they're blue, and that will affect your cutting as well. So you can turn that off. Okay. Now come back to the table. I'm on Difference using the eyedropper. Select those. Something has changed. Note my bevel has changed here, but it's got a nice little rounded edge, and that's fine with me. So we're going to go ahead and apply that. Take these, I'm just going to hide them for now. All right, so I got some nice cuts into there. Now, if you go in and you look at the geometry, some like purists are not going to like that. And yeah, anyways, not going to worry about that. I'll take you bring those back. Okay, so what you can see here now are these rectangles, circles, and rounded rectangles. And these would represent probably buttons of some sort on this table or computer table, console, whatever. Let's go ahead and make these in 3D. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking. First of all, I'm thinking about using these again. I'm just going to actually take them and I'm going to rotate these in the Y. Let's see, let's move them out here. Okay. RY90. It doesn't really matter, I guess, which orientation they go in. So let's just put them up there, but I believe there are 5 of these. So I'm going to up the count to 5. These, and they're actually rotate Z90. They're actually that orientation. Just going to leave those there, and we're going to create the square button. Why not use a piece we've already got? Let's take that, Shift D, bring it up, S to scale it, P, break it out, and now we have that. Let's set the origin to geometry, and let's look from the top, and I'm just going to bring it close to those just because I want to line it up. I'm going to scale it some more. And I think I want actually 2 rows of these buttons. All right. So before I do anything else, I'm going to give it some thickness. I'm going to press E, and I'm going to gesture up in the Z direction. Just like that. Give it some thickness. Grab the bottom face, X faces. And maybe I'll grab the top and pull it down just a little bit. Okay. So that could be my button. I'm going to set the origin of geometry on that. Pull it down until it makes contact. And let's have a look at this. So it's quite a rounded button compared to these, but that's okay. So I'm going to want 2 rows of these, and the height of these is going to be equal to the height of that. You know what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to just bring it close. I'm going to have to make it bigger. Shift D, and I'm going to do this. Just like that. So I've got 2 of them there. And then I'm going to array. I want to array in the Y direction. And so put 0 in for the X. And I don't know how many. Let's see how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We want 5. But as I look at this, I don't actually like the spacing. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select a piece of this one. Control L will select everything linked to it. So I get the whole button. I'm going to drag it up. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to come over to these guys. I'm going to change them. I'm going to pull this. Yeah. Let's just scale it in the X. Get it pretty close. That's fine. Okay. Now, these don't have much of a bevel on it. So let's try just add a bevel. See if we just get a little bit. That's fine. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so we have those. All right. And in between there, we are going to need 3 circles. So let's make those. My 3D cursor is right here, and I want to create some circles closer to this. So if I select this and this and go Shift S, cursor selected, I'll bring my 3D cursor a lot closer to where I want to bring in that circle. So let's do that. Shift A, mesh, circle. I'm going to choose just 18 vertices because I'm going to put a subdivision surface. I don't need too many. Go into edit mode, 1 for vertex. I like using that so I can see S to scale. Press the period key to zoom in, and let's look from top view and just drag these over. All right, this is getting annoying, so let's select that and this and the table and those and the circle if I can, and let's go Shift H and just focus on those. There, now I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let's go in. We're gonna make 3 circles here. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is press F to make face, E to extrude, and I'm gonna pull it up a little ways, and then I'm going to bevel this. I'm going to Control B, pull, and roll my mouse down to 0. And so I've got just this area, and I'm just going to roll my mouse up. So I got 1 edge loop inside the middle there, and that's good. And before I go any further, let's set origin to geometry. So my arrows are right there. Go into edit mode, and for number 3 for face selection, I'm going to select that bottom face, X faces, get rid of it. Let's add a subdivision surface, add modifier, subdivision just 1, and right click shade smooth. I haven't been shading smooth on all these other objects, and I'll deal with that later. I'm going to pull this down, and let's see if I can get the right size for this. Let's use the array. In the X, I'll give it a little bit of room. Let's try 3, and then let's look at the diagram. Okay. Okay, let's scale them a bit smaller, and just roughly do this. And I guess everything is going to need to come together. Now, position-wise, these buttons, they start around halfway. So let's move everything down, like around there. And where do they come to? Around 2/3 of that. That's actually not bad right there. What about this distance? Yeah, they're closer to the front. So like that. Okay. Okay. Cool. Now what I was thinking of was making a little indentation, just like these, in this tabletop, computer top, so that these buttons sort of stick out. So I think maybe I'll do something like that. So let's see what we can do. Let's go into edit mode. Why don't we use this piece to create that? Shift D to duplicate it, bring it up, P, choose separate by selection. And now we have that piece. Look from the top, and I'm going to go to 2 for edge selection, grab this edge and pull it down like this. I could go Z wireframe so I can see through. And select the whole thing, slide it down. And I'm looking here. I'm going to bring this up so that it just sort of encompasses all of these buttons like that. And like that. Something like that. Okay. Okay, now I want this to be a rounded rectangle, so I think the way I'll do this is I'll press 1 for vertex selection. You can select it all or just individually select the points. Then I want to bevel these, but it's not Control B, it's Shift Control B. Shift Control B, pull, till you see it separating, roll my mouse till I have 5. I like to have 1 dot in the middle where the corner would be, and then 2. Okay, so I'm going to do a boolean, so I'm going to need to give this some thickness. So E, to gesture up in the Z direction. And if it looks a little funny, it's because it's still got the modifiers that this had. So that's fine. With that selected, let's just get rid of those, including auto smooth, and we'll just shade flat. So I'm going to use this now. I'm going to drag it down, push it in. Let's have a look over here, make sure that all our polys are facing the right way, and they are, so that's good. Okay, I want to make a small indentation in the table, so I'm going to select the table here, come over to modifiers, boolean, I'm going to drag it to the top, make sure it's on difference, and for my object with the eyedropper, select that. And go ahead and apply. Take this, and I'll just hide it. So I now have an indentation with my buttons. And then the last thing I will do is make sure that all of these are, first of all, sitting in the actual material, in the table. So are these? Okay, there, under, okay, right about there. Good. And these I might make a little bit less high. So I'm going to select the top face because it's arrayed, they'll all go. So do something like that. And maybe even these are a little too extreme. So I'll select those two, and the rest is arrayed. And I'll just pull them down like that. All right. So that is what I get. H to bring everything else back. I could take this piece now and delete it. I don't need it. And let's have a look at what we've got with the cavity shader on. Okay, I can try shadows, see if that looks nice at all. And click there, hide that stuff and that stuff. And this is what we have so far. All right, so we're starting to get a little bit of detail in here. We'll do some similar stuff on here. And I might do some more designs on this, I'm not sure. But that's a good start for now. Hopefully you followed that okay and it all worked for you if you're following along with me. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, help it grow. Tune in for part 4 soon.